Welcome to the deep dive. For decades, we've looked up at the sky and wondered what else is out there.
Hmm.
Unidentified flying objects, UFOs, they've captured our imaginations for so long, haven't they?
Absolutely, sparking endless stories, even official investigations, like that old UK Ministry of Defense one.
Right. And, the mind often jumps straight to alien spacecraft.
It does, but the explanations are often, well, a lot closer to home.
Exactly. And that's really what this deep dive is all about today.
Yeah, we're not saying we have all the answers to every sky mystery, but we want to unpack some of the recent buzz around potential UFOs.
We'll look at everyday things easily mistaken for something stranger.
And we'll dive into one specific case that's been making waves online recently.
We're drawing on scientific analysis, but also looking at those online discussions too.
A real mix of sources.
Okay, so let's kick off with those common misconceptions. We found a great piece from BBC Sky at Night magazine.
Oh, yeah, that list.
It lists 17 things people often mistake for UFOs. It's a real eye-opener, actually.
It really is. The variety is quite something. It just shows how easily our eyes or our brains can be tricked.
Like what, for instance?
Well, the article mentions military aircraft. You know, like those really cutting-edge spy planes, the Blackbird back in the day.
Uh-huh.
Or more recently, stealth fighters, like the F-117A Nighthawk. Things designed to be hard to see or identify.
Stuff that looks weird because it's secret military tech.
Precisely. And who knows what other top-secret craft are being tested right now. Maybe even some saucer-shaped things.
Could lead to whole new waves of sightings then.
Potentially, yeah. So things we build ourselves are often the source.
Okay, what about natural stuff? Nature must throw up some confusing sights.
Oh, definitely. Meteor fireballs, for example.
Right.
The magazine describes them appearing suddenly, often yellowish, silent, streaking across the sky.
With a glowing tail.
Yeah, and then breaking up in a flash, usually gone in under a minute.
Sounds pretty spectacular. Easy to see how you'd mistake that if you didn't know.
Absolutely. And then there are simpler things like optical illusions, lens flare.
Ah, yes. Light bouncing around inside the camera lens or binoculars.
Exactly. Creates those weird glowing spots or orbs in photos or even just looking through optics. Surprisingly deceptive sometimes.
And nature keeps going, right? Things that look uncannily like classic UFOs.
Well, the article mentions oddly shaped clouds, specifically lenticular clouds.
Lenticular clouds.
Yeah, they can form near mountains when moist air flows over them. Creates this really smooth lens or saucer shape.
So they look like they're just hovering there, like a classic flying saucer.
Pretty much. They look stationary because they're constantly reforming as the air moves.
Oh, wow. So ordinary weather looks like an alien craft?
It's amazing, isn't it? How it taps into our ideas of what UFOs should look like.
What else?
Another big one. Sky lanterns.
Oh, those paper lanterns with candles.
Exactly. The candle heats the air. They rise pretty high, maybe up to a kilometer.
And they can look like they're hovering.
Yeah, especially on a still night.
Yeah.
And you often see them in groups. Get this. The article says, in 2009, sky lanterns were the #1 cause of UFO reports to the UK Modeter.
Seriously? #1?
Tripled the total number of sightings reported that year.
Wow. That's incredible. Just shows how easily fooled we can be.
It really does. The list keeps going, too.
Military satellites.
Satellites.
Yeah, apparently the U.S. Navy launched this series called NOSS back in the 70s. 3 satellites flying in a triangle formation.
A triangle.
Oh.
In space.
Yeah, to track Soviet ships back then. And sometimes you can actually see that formation with the naked eye. Imagine spotting that without knowing what it is.
That would definitely seem strange.
And then, of course, there are actual planets.
Like Venus.
Venus is a huge one, especially when it's really bright, just before sunrise or after sunset, often mistaken for landing lights on a plane.
Because it doesn't seem to move much against the stars. Looks like it's hovering.
Exactly. And Jupiter, too, that bright sort of orangey red glow, another common celestial suspect.
Okay, but what about really weird natural phenomena?
Like ball lightning.
Is that real? Oh, yeah. The article says its exact cause is still a bit debated, but it's a real thing. Can be quite big, like up to a meter across.
And it lasts longer than normal lightning.
Much longer. And it can hover, move erratically. There are even stories of it coming inside buildings.
Whoa. Okay, that sounds genuinely eerie.
It does, and it just reminds us, not everything unexplained is from out there.
What about stuff falling from space, like space junk?
Space debris, yeah. That's another big contributor. We've got so much old equipment orbiting Earth.
So old satellites falling back down.
Exactly. They burn up, entering the atmosphere, creating fireballs, sometimes with really vibrant colored trails as different metals incinerate.
And bits can survive and land, leading to alien wreckage stories.
Sometimes, yeah. Then you've got weather balloons,
Ah, the Roswell explanation.
often linked to it, yes. They're released daily all over the world, go up really high, like 40 kilometers, then burst and fall back.
From the ground, especially if one burst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could look pretty unusual.
Definitely. And then there are tech malfunctions, like rocket misfires.
No.
The article mentions a Russian missile test in 2009. A Bulava missile went wrong over Norway.
What happened?
It created this bizarre white spiral pattern in the sky with a blue beam coming out of the middle, a truly weird sight. Understandably caused a lot of UFO reports.
I can imagine. We also can't forget flares, right? Like from military planes.
Exactly. The Phoenix lights in '97 that V-shaped people saw, often attributed to flares from a training exercise.
Because the heat makes them look like they hang in the air longer.
Yeah, it creates the illusion of a solid object, or objects moving together.
Simple things, too, like searchlights on clouds.
Yep, from a distance, those beams hitting clouds can look like mysterious lights moving around.
And even contrails, those vapor trails from planes.
Believe it or not, yeah. Depending on your angle and how the sunlight hits them, they can sometimes look like something crashing or descending really fast.
It's just really striking how many everyday things can trick our eyes and minds.
It is. Which brings us neatly to a more recent case that's got a lot of people talking online.
The Buga Sphere.
That's the one. This metallic sphere, reportedly found in Buga, Colombia. It's really sparked a ton of speculation online.
Okay, tell us about it. Where are people discussing this?
We've been looking at Reddit forums, places like Above the Norm News, RUFOs, Raelians, RUFOB. It's a real mix, intense curiosity, but also quite a bit of skepticism.
So what were the initial reports?
Well, some initial reports, also picked up by Fox News and echoed on Reddit, described it as a three-layered metallic sphere. And crucially, no obvious welds or joints, according to one researcher involved early on.
No welds or joints. Okay, that immediately sounds non-human, right?
That's what got people excited. The lack of apparent human manufacturing techniques made some jump straight to, well, extraterrestrial possibilities.
But the Reddit threads are pushing back.
Oh, yeah. Lots of alternative theories. One big point is the involvement of Nemi Mosan.
Ah, Himi Mosan. He has a long and sometimes controversial history with UFO stuff, doesn't he?
He does. And some Reddit users are already calling this a potential hoax, even labeling it the Mosan sphere, because his name popped up in an image caption.
His past involvement with things like the tridactyl mummies, that raises flags for people.
Definitely fuels the skepticism for many, yes.
What else are people questioning?
The X-ray images that were shared online, they've come under heavy scrutiny on Reddit.
How so?
Well, radiologists commenting pointed out that X-rays don't really show density directly, like some reports claimed. The better term is opacity, how much the material blocks the X-rays.
Okay, a technical point, but important.
Right. And they also questioned why use basic X-rays anyway? Why not a CT scan? That would give much more detailed internal structure and actual density measurements.
So questioning the methods used?
Yes, and also concerns about scatter radiation, like blurry, unwanted radiation, and whether the shielding was adequate during the X-ray, suggesting maybe it wasn't done very professionally or safely.
What about the sphere itself? Anything on its appearance?
Beyond the no welds claim, some Reddit users zoomed in on what looked like, well, possibly handcrafted symbols and crescent moons on the sphere's surface.
Handcrafted.
That's the suggestion, which leads people to think maybe it's terrestrial after all, perhaps an art project, or something deliberately made to look mysterious. One really long Reddit comment made a strong case for that, based on these markings.
Right.
And then there's how it moves. People have analyzed the videos shared online.
What are the theories there?
More down-to-earth ideas, like maybe it's just a drone hidden inside a metallic shell. Or even simpler, maybe it's just a metallic sphere hanging from a drone by, like, fishing line. That could explain some of the movements people saw.
Okay.
Some users even claim they can see what might be tack welds in enhanced versions of the X-ray images.
Tack welds. That would clearly suggest human construction.
Exactly. And there were reports of its weight fluctuating, which led some to speculate that maybe the original sphere was swapped out at some point.
So, lots of reasons to be doubtful. Did any academics weigh in?
Yeah, Julia Mossbridge from the Institute for Love and Time at UC San Diego spoke to Fox News. She shared her skepticism, suggested it could easily be an art project, and basically urged caution before jumping to conclusions.
That sounds sensible.
What's also interesting is how people tried to find deeper meaning. There was an early claim about 18 microspheres inside, later refuted on Reddit, apparently.
Microspheres inside.
Yeah, and some comments tried to link this number 18 to, like, esoteric concepts, Buddhism, alchemy, searching for significance.
Shows our human need to find wonder, I suppose, even when the facts are murky.
It does. But one detail from Reddit that seemed more concrete was about witnesses.
Multiple witnesses.
Apparently, yeah, multiple people filmed it. And one witness claimed it actually interacted with high-voltage power lines, briefly.
Really? What happened?
Caused it to move erratically, seem weakened somehow. Now, that could suggest an internal power source or some weird interaction.
Or
it could just be explained by a physical tether getting tangled or someone manipulating it near the lines.
Still ambiguous. And where is the sphere now?
Reportedly, it's been transferred to Hime.
Ah.
According to one Reddit comment, the reasons given were things like harassment from onlookers and authorities, and someone suggesting Mawson take it.
Which, given his profile, probably just adds fuel to the debate and the skepticism.
I mean, much, yeah.
Okay, so the Buga Sphere. Lots of buzz, but also a huge amount of skepticism and plenty of plausible earthly explanations being suggested.
That seems to be the current state of play.
Which makes you wonder, what do the established scientific perspectives say about this kind of thing? About unusual aerial phenomena in general?
That's a really important angle. We looked at a paper from the Harvard and Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics on the physical constraints on unidentified aerial phenomena.
Physical constraints, like the laws of physics.
Exactly. From a purely scientific view, they explain that any object hitting our atmosphere at high speed should produce really specific detectable effects.
Because of friction with the air.
Right. Or water, if it hit the ocean. You'd expect bright optical fireballs like shooting stars, but potentially much brighter.
Okay.
You'd also expect an ionization shell, basically a layer of charged particles around it, and radio emissions, things our instruments could potentially pick up.
And the brightness would depend on how far away it is.
Massively. They note fireball brightness scales with the inferred distance to the 5th power. So brighter means closer, exponentially.
That makes sense. Heat, light, radio waves, physics in action.
The paper also floats this really interesting idea. Technological dandelion seeds.
Dandelion seeds, what's that?
Think tiny probes, but with a really large surface area compared to their mass. Like a dandelion seed floats on the wind.
Okay.
Why? The idea is they could potentially slow down a lot in our atmosphere because of air resistance.
Yeah.
Maybe enough to avoid burning up completely.
Ah, like a parachute effect almost. Could we detect those?
That's the key point. The paper says our current radar tech is pretty good. It can detect these high area to mass, or HMR, objects down to just a few centimeters in size.
Centimeters? That's tiny.
Yeah, at least within the radar coverage most developed nations have. Their large surface area helps them slow down and makes them potentially detectable despite being small.
So if tiny probes were arriving, we might already be able to spot them.
Possibly. The paper also speculates on why probes might come here.
Why Earth?
Habitable zones, basically. Places like Earth with liquid water, that would be a prime target.
They could detect water from far away.
Potentially, yeah. The specific light signatures, the spectral signatures of water and even vegetation could act like cosmic beacons over interstellar distances.
Wow. Like life here signs.
Sort of. And connecting this to the really big picture, the paper touches on self-replicating interstellar probes.
Like von Neumann probes.
That kind of theoretical idea. Traveling at a fraction of light speed, spreading out, maybe reaching huge numbers of planets over vast timescales.
Looking for resources, like water.
Water could be crucial, maybe even as fuel for them. It's all theoretical, but based on plausible physics and logic.
So, bringing it back to sightings, claims of objects doing impossible things, like crazy speeds without sonic booms or fireballs.
Science says, hold on, those claims need to be squared with the known physics of things like ionization, radar reflectivity, heat signatures, sonic booms, fireballs.
If an object is reported going supersonic with no boom, no heat trail, that's physically problematic.
Exactly. That should immediately raise scientific questions. These are the constraints scientists work with.
What about NASA? They've been looking into this more formally recently, haven't they?
Yes. We also looked at the NASA Independent Study Team report on Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, or UAP.
UAP, the preferred term now.
Right. And NASA's approach is very clear. Rigorous, evidence-based science.
What are they emphasizing?
A critical need for better data, better ways to acquire it, more advanced analysis techniques, standard ways to report sightings, and importantly, reducing the stigma around reporting.
Making it okay for pilots, scientists, everyone to report unusual things without fear of ridicule.
Precisely. NASA's involvement really signals a shift towards applying serious scientific method here.
What kind of data do they want?
Well-calibrated data, crucially, from multiple types of sensors at the same time. Think optical cameras, infrared, radar, all looking at the same thing simultaneously.
Cross-referencing the information.
Exactly. They also see potential for AI and machine learning to help sift through data and spot anomalies.
But the analysis tools aren't the main problem right now.
According to the report, no. The bigger bottleneck is the quality and quantity of the data itself. We just don't have enough good, reliable observations.
So how do we get better data? Any NASA recommendations?
Yeah, several. Leveraging their own Earth-observing assets, satellites and instruments already up there.
Makes sense.
Collaborating with the commercial remote sensing industry, which is growing fast.
Private satellite companies, you mean?
Yes, and even exploring ways to use crowdsourcing, getting data from the public, but in a scientifically structured way.
But despite all the sightings people report worldwide,
The report highlights the fundamental challenge: a real lack of consistent, high-quality, verifiable data. Lots of anecdotes, not enough solid measurement.
which brings us back to that core scientific principle.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. NASA stresses this, especially for claims about extraterrestrial origins.
That should be the hypothesis of last resort.
Absolutely. Only after all other possibilities, known technology, natural phenomena have been rigorously checked and ruled out.
And they agree that many UAP sightings probably do have mundane explanations.
Yes, the report echoes that point strongly. Many, likely most, can probably be chalked up to known human or natural causes, like the ones in that BBC article we discussed.
Why the recent increase in reports to the military then, like to the DoD and Aero?
NASA suggests it's partly better awareness of potential security threats, drone surveillance, etc., and partly that reduced stigma we mentioned. People feel more willing to report now.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, it really seems like while UFOs are endlessly fascinating,
A huge chunk of sightings have pretty ordinary explanations,
Yeah.
our own tech or just nature doing its thing.
even a case like the Buga Sphere, which sounds wild initially, faces serious skepticism and lots of possible earthly origins.
Right. And the clear message from the scientific community, especially NASA, is that we need a rigorous, evidence-based approach. Better data, better analysis. That's the path to understanding any genuinely anomalous phenomena.
What's really insightful here, I think, is how consistent that message is. Verifiable evidence, careful analysis. That's key.
Absolutely. And while that allure of the unknown is powerful, you, our listener, can hopefully see now how vital a good understanding of our world plus some healthy critical thinking really is when you encounter these unusual events.
Just think about that huge list of possibilities: clouds, lanterns, planets, debris, flares.
Exactly. It's worth taking a moment to consider just how many natural and human-made things can, at first glance, look like something truly extraordinary.